Now then, it is episode 3 of the Late Challenge podcast. You've got me, Gareth Roberts, you've got him, Paul Cope, and it's the usual mix of a bit of newsy newspaper type stuff, a bit of madness, a bit of sport, a bit of football, a bit of whatever else we fancy. First off, the admin. The admin is this nice one for the continued support. We were up to 22nd place last week in the sports podcast category charts, just one behind Gary Neville. We also got a lovely rating of 5 out of 5 on Apple Podcasts. Plenty of reviews to boot. Keep them coming in. They help us massively. The socials too are growing, so thanks for that. If you don't already, find us and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. And the old classic, comment, share and like. That helps us too. Fuck Gary Neville. Right.
Before you go on, my girlfriend, who was a big fan of the show, by the way, which is nice, did take the piss out of us last week, though. She went, you know, there was a bit where you and Robbo just kept going like, yeah, just share and liking that. And then the other one would go, yeah, so just share and liking that. And I was like, yeah, all right. Well, just,
peace and love.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just share and like.
Share and liking that.
Share and liking that. Follow. Share. Liking that. A fella emailed this morning to say that he'd shared the show with someone he thought would like it, and he was in Australia. And the fella was called Pompey something. And he went, don't worry, it's not that smelly fella that you see who supports Portsmouth. So I was glad he clarified.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to start with my fact. Now, I kept this back so that the surprise will unfold on Kopi's face as it is revealed. And you will hear the gasps in the background from Jacob. So we all know how important it is to have a big clock, don't we? Clock, Kopi.
Where's this going?
So what do you think, you might take a guess here, but what do you think is the biggest clock in this country?
Right, so do you know what I always do this on any games, because I'm a weirdo. I always think play the player, not the game. So I'm going to guess the Liver buildings.
So that is correct, and you've done that to be a twat. But most people who I've asked over the weekend thought it would be Big Ben.
Yeah, but my other one about Big Ben is that's not even the clock, is it?
No, it's not, because Big Ben's the name for the Great Bell.
Yes.
And in fact, the tower that houses the bell is known as the Elizabeth Tower. But I just like the fact that they're there being all capital city, being all, one thing that's mad about this city is obviously we get loads of tourists and that's absolutely fantastic. Come to Liverpool. Liverpool is boss for lots of reasons. Yeah. You should all come here. But if you go around the Albert Dock and look in the tourist-centric shops, if you like, it's got all stuff in there that you'd expect to see, like Beatles, Liver buildings, models, pictures, all that. It's got loads of London stuff in there.
I've noticed that in
London
the past.
Buses and
it's
fucking
weird, isn't it?
Them fellas with the big hats who stand outside Buckingham Palace and that.
Do you reckon that's because some people get off to the boat and they just wow, we can't be asked going to London. Yeah. We'll just cover that as well.
So I just thought that's mad. And surely the shop can say, listen, there is no London stuff because we can't be arsed with them. They're all the way down there.
Yeah, well, they're not selling Liverpool stuff, are they?
Exactly. Anyway, so the Liver building is better and bigger. It's the biggest clock face in the UK, apparently.
That's mad, because it must have been built before. That must have been built before.
Well,
Which was built first?
I don't know. I haven't got that in front of me. I've got that the Liver building's been here since 1911.
So Big Ben's probably older, isn't it?
But yeah.
I like that. I like we've made it bigger.
Ours is bigger. We've got the biggest clock.
1843, Big Ben.
1843, Big
nice.
Ben. So
someone's gone, fuck it. Let's make it bigger than theirs.
A bigger clock. But the reason they said is because obviously everyone's coming into the port, ships, etc. And it's like, oh yeah, it was just so they could tell the time.
Yeah.
Fucking bollocks.
No chance.
Okay, the next one is we didn't think this would take off as a feature, I've got to be honest, but it has done. It's the update on having a shite on bogs that celebrities have previously been on, because we thought it was funny, that Kopi had curled in Corkill's poo print, but now more people have been revealing their celebrity shitter stories. So I've got a few for us, Kopi, to work through. Travis Bickle. Come on, mate. We've seen the film. We know it's not your real name. He says anyway, friend of a friend worked as a cleaner at Buckingham Palace. They cleaned the toilet only used by the Queen and found a pube, which you would think could have been Her Majesty's. So he put it in some toilet paper and took it home like a piece of celebrity memorabilia. Then he puts, P.S. loving the podcast.
I love it when they finish like that.
James as well says, great show again, lads. Thank you, James. He says, my mate's dad bought Joe Strummer's childhood family house from him, and I've defo had a poo there.
So I purposely didn't ask you this, so I'll make a fool of myself on our podcast. Who's Joe Strummer?
Well, now I'm going to make a show of myself, isn't he? The Clash.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Phew, thank fuck for that. I would have looked at Bell if I'd have got that wrong. Yeah, he's the fella out of the Clash.
Yeah, see, I'm not cool enough for that. I'm not cool enough. That's a good one. But before we go to the last one, I think the last one's my favourite one. But I want to talk about the Queen one just for a second, because I've got this big thing. I'll get myself in trouble just for saying shit like this, but do what everyone bangs on about, like, man, there's this big thing now that men and women are the same about everything. And I just always go, but they're not, and we don't need to be. Why can't we just be different? And I just think if you had to guess which gender of human
I'd rob the
pube from the Queen's toilet, it's gonna be a fella, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if I think of all the women I know, like me mum, me aunties, me sister, me girlfriend, if they saw a pube in the Queen's toilet, the first thing they'd think wouldn't be, I'll take that.
No.
Would it?
No.
Whereas pretty much every fella I know would go, I'm gonna get that. And when they got back and said to their mate, guess what I've got?
Yeah, unfolded it in a tissue in the pub.
Look at that. It must be the Queen's. Everyone else would be made up, wouldn't he?
Yeah, the Queen's.
That is a fundamental difference between us, which is sound.
100%. I mean, like, one of my mates always used to say about the Queen, the royal family, anyone famous, in fact, he used to always go, they just go the fucking bog the same as you and me. What's the big deal? And he said it all the time. And again, I think that's something you would come from the lips of a man, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, women I don't think
about shitting.
No, not really. And toilet humour,
and you know what? I can prove this. And let's see, because you've had a boy and a girl kid, haven't you? I've got 2 stepsons, and they're 3 and 5, and they're just obsessed with poo. They love it. Like, they just love. Yeah. They love, like, talking about poo. Everything's poo on your face, like. And I think that's a thing. Like, I've had a niece and a nephew. Yeah. Like, I've had a niece and nephew. My niece was never asked about that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Whereas my nephew was, like, he
I mean, I've got a daughter and a son, similar age. And, like, if I let rip, my lad's more likely to find it amusing than my daughter, it's fair to say. So I think that, I mean, you can never completely generalise. I'm sure there are women who subscribe to Viz, love farting, and find toilet humour hilarious.
Of course, there'll be some listening to this, and fair play to you.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh, yeah. We've also got another one. We've got a couple more, in fact. So we've got one where it says, I can't claim to have shat on a famous person's bog. However, while I was out travelling in Australia back in 2005, I attended the Melbourne Grand Prix, and during the day, as the race went on, needed a shite. Went down to the gents and there was a long queue. Eventually I got to the stall and was waiting outside the cubicle while the person in front finished their business. Heard the flush go, the door unlocking, and then suddenly, to my shock, out walked David Coulthard. He clearly saw that I was a bit taken aback and laughed and said, all yours. Anyway, I went in and sat down and the seat was lovely and warm. Cheers, David. Celebrity bog warmer. And that's Stephen Cork, who says, keep up the good work, lads. I'll be following with interest while driving to and from work.
It's a nice one, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's my favourite one because it's live. Like, Jimmy Cork hadn't sat on the bog I was on for 30 years, probably.
Yeah, straight after.
This was straight. Like, you could literally feel how he'd warmed it.
Feel the warmth of Coulthard's hoop.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's all kinds in it. Why is David Coulthard using the same bog as some fella?
He's just some fella.
I know that, but like, when was this? 2005. Wasn't he still driving then?
Don't know. Not really into Grand Prix.
Aren't you?
No. Yeah, I like the start and I like the finish, and I can't be arsed with all the shit in between. Yeah, I think
that's what most people think. Just watch the highlights and you'll be sound.
And I wouldn't go. It's too loud.
Well, I don't really get the point of going to Grand Prix. Like, it's like loads of you never know who's winning. Do you? Like, without someone telling you.
But what are you watching as a spectator sport as well, if you're there?
Just a car driving past you, that's it.
And that's it. And it's like, on the telly, you're getting all these different shots, you're getting the fella telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
like being there, and I'm sure, look, we're going to get shit again, aren't we, about like, fucking hell, we're going to get, some lads who go home and away watching Grand Prix.
Is there a home and away Grand Prix? Is there?
I don't know.
Fucking hate Ferrari, mate.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Fucking, did you hear them on that podcast saying he prefers to watch it on telly? Fucking dickheads. That was Stephen Cork anyway, and on the subject of Cork, home, of course, of Barry's tea, you might remember on the last show that Carl came in from Ireland and dropped some tea off, and I said, well, let's settle the debate. So Carl brought, it was a big fan of Lion's tea. I'm a big fan of Barry's tea. We put it to the vote. Barry's tea themselves were liking the tweets and stuff, by the way. Any tea there, Barry lad?
You said they've been teasing you for years, haven't they?
Do you know what I mean? They sent a box once when I was at the Anfield app, and that was it, yeah.
Surely they haven't got that many people on the internet banging on about them.
Not as much as me, surely.
You would think they'd at least send you a box a month.
Conclusive anyway. Team Robbo, Barry's 72.6% of the vote. So yeah, unlucky Carl, unlucky Lions, unlucky Phil, if you're listening, who constantly, one of my mates who constantly badgers me about Lions tea, even sent me one strapped to the inside of a book as my housewarming present. Didn't drink it, Phil. Did you really think I was going to? And also the other vote is the crisps, of course. It's 1-1 Cope. It's 1-1. A comprehensive victory for Pickled Onion Monster Munch last week over Cheese Quavers. 71.9%
You
of the
call
vote.
it comprehensive, right? But I think there's two things going on here. And I didn't realise the Barry's tea thing as well. 281 votes. That's all there were. 281 votes. That's basically your family. They have gone, let's vote for Robbo.
We can only read out what we get.
And I think this is a clear example of, Joe, when you get people going, how did that, even in like politics, it's like, how did they win? And it's like all the people who love Quavers have thought it's so nailed on. It's actually, I was thinking about the X Factor. Just someone boss on the X Factor goes out and someone shit wins it. And it's because everyone who thought they were boss were like, oh, everyone else will vote for them. I think all the Quavers fans were thinking there would be so many Quavers voters. We don't need to bother.
Lad, you lost.
Everyone who emailed was like, Quavers a fucking boss, by the way.
Lad, you lost. You can tell he's a fucking lawyer, can't you, with all that? Anyway, okay, first section. We're going to try this week and just like loosen up a bit, and we're not having the clock. A few people said they didn't like the clock. Well, I've got the clock, so we could go back to the clock whenever we like. But a few people just said it like jarred when they were listening. And I'm always wary of that because, obviously being in the podcasting game for so long, people don't like certain noises. I mean, we got a very detailed piece of feedback before we even started, didn't we?
Yeah.
About don't bang your watch on the table, don't slap the palm onto the table, blah, blah, does that. And I ate it and all that. Fair play. I've got my watch protected by my jumper there. And when Kopi's doing me head in, whatever he's saying, I'm not going to slam the desk. So I just thought, well, we'll try without the clock, see if it like loosens us up. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it was quite rigid to follow the sections, or that was for a reason, because we've only got an hour a week to record. Yeah. But we'll just see how it goes. Let's see what happens.
This is the thing, isn't it? We're experimenting as we go. So.
Yeah, we're just playing around with the concept as we go. And seeing what happens, but so far so good, and thanks again for all of that.
Like and share and
like share. Anyway, the media challenge then. So I was looking for something all week to talk about, and I've got to be honest, my reason for picking this is really simplistic. I love a headline, and what I also love is I work with the sport, and in the sport you can get away with pretty much anything. And what you were always looking for when you were writing or sub-editing or, doing the headlines, whatever, it's just like a way of describing something where it'll like raise a bit of a chuckle. And like I was just walking past a row of papers in the shop, and it just made me laugh that they'd used the phrase Britain's kipping crisis, because you just don't expect to see the word kip used on the front page of a newspaper. I don't think, anyway.
Well, that's not the only thing on it, but let's be clear, it is the Daily Star.
It is the Daily Star. I think, I know some lads who work for the Star, and I think like they've brought it back to life quite well in fairly recent years, because they've gone for like making it funny. They've done a few things that's got like gone viral, like there was the Liz Truss or the cabbage, and which was going to last longer and things like that. That was them. Was it? It was actually one of my mates who ended up on the Newscast podcast, I think it is, talking about, how they come up with the idea and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, do you know what?
Dochan's on there,
really
Dochan's on the star these days.
Is that where he is? Yeah. I was chatting to him a while ago about it. That's what's really fair play to your mate in that team, because I knew about the Liz Truss and cabbage thing, but didn't know where it came from. It literally hit the mainstream.
Yeah.
Ant and Dec were doing it on I'm a Celebrity and everything, weren't they?
That's what I mean. So like, I think they've brought it back to life quite well. And so the front page that caught my eye: Kipping crisis. Britain is in the grip of a terrifying kipping nightmare that is turning us all into zombies, and the cost of living crisis is partly to blame. They've gone with actual zombies on the front page, and they've gone with the headline "Zombie Apocalypse," which I liked. It says 1 out of 4 of us only get 5 hours sleep, 91% wake up in the middle of the night, and 13% are too tired for rumpy pumpy, which is another one of them phrases.
Well, exactly. When you said
mean?
you were made up with kipping, I was like, well, rumpy pumpy gives it a run for its money, doesn't it?
And you turn inside to the actual piece, and they've gone with another zombie. They've gone for Shaun of the Bed in there, and then 5 hours sleep a night is turning us all into zombies. Quickly run through the story, the bits that I've already said, but then they've got an expert from a sleep clinic saying obviously how important sleep is. The main reasons for lack of sleep are fears about cost of living crisis, issues with colleagues and daily workloads. Around 17% of those asked said they struggled because of their finances. 15% said work worries. And then there's been some research, which I read about elsewhere, saying we actually should be sleeping more in the winter. Boffins, which is another great tabloid word. Boffins reckon we might need to adjust our sleep habits by going to bed earlier in the darker and colder months. Just a shout out as well, when I was prepping this, just one of those mad things that happens. I was writing my notes for it, and blah blah blah, and I spotted a fella following us who could be great for a daily sport or star headline in the future on this subject. He's called the Grim Sleeper, which again, fair play. I like that. So yeah, I just thought we'd have a chat then about sleep. Me and you have talked about sleep before. We're both shite at sleeping, aren't we? I think it's fair to say. I looked back at the first episode of this, the video of it, and I was like, I look fucked on that.
Really?
Because I'd had a terrible kip. And like, lately in particular, it's been really bad for me. And I've tried, honestly, like, and anything and everything. I've tried like going to bed at different times. I wrote some of them down just so I don't forget. So I've tried CBD oil. I've tried valerian root. I've tried chamomile tea. I've varied when I drink my tea in the day. So some people say like stop drinking caffeine at 4 and things like that. Tried all that shit. I've reduced screen time. I wear an eye mask. I've got pillow spray. I even read somewhere that you should if you sleep on your own, you should hug things. Like hug a pillow or whatever, as though because you might be sort of craving a person. So I've tried that. Tried reading. I've looked into light therapy. I haven't gone down that road, but I've looked at it because I think there's a bit of seasonal affective disorder maybe going on with me. I know I'm awful after ale. So I've had a pretty booze-free weekend this weekend and walked up a mountain and all kinds of stuff. Still had a shit kip last night. And it's like, fuck me. And it's so frustrating, isn't it, when you get a bad kip?
Yeah, but I said to you as we came in, it's perfect time. So I'm knackered. I'm absolutely knackered. And I was laughing to myself. Do you remember when you were in school and like a teacher would go to you, you'd yawn, and a teacher would go, "Are we keeping you awake, Roberts?" Yeah. And like the answer to that is always yes, isn't it? Yes, you are. Like this podcast is keeping me awake. If I wasn't doing this podcast with you now, I'd be asleep. That's not a bad thing. No. Like it's good. It's keeping me awake. I should be awake for it. But yeah, I have awful sleep. Mainly both though. Mine's pain related, right? So pain wakes me up because I'm on this mission, without going too deep and serious, like to cure chronic pain things with the power of my mind, like trying to be a Jedi. But what that means is like I wake up, I can wake up like 10 times a night. And when that happens, so last night I probably woke up 6 times. And every time you wake up, you get up, you go to the toilet, you come back, and you just never get. And I was watching Jake Humphrey's podcast, talking to a sleep expert, and he was talking about 90-minute sleep cycles and how many you need for a boss night's sleep. And I was laughing to myself going, I don't get any. I never get a 90-minute sleep cycle. But I think if it wasn't for the pain waking me up, I reckon I've nailed all the other stuff. So what stops you sleeping? Can you get to sleep or not get to sleep? Because I used to have awful insomnia years ago.
Yeah, just not getting to sleep in the first place. So loads of times I'll go to bed, like, because, you know, like I'll be like, well, I'm up at such a time, and so like I need some kip. This is the window where I've got to try and get some kip. Go to bed, and then like the bed ends up starting to get too hot and things like that. Or like I'll read, but nothing will be happening other than I'm reading. Like one time I went to bed very recently before midnight, and like I read till 3 a.m, straight through 3 hours. Like,
but what were you reading?
What was I reading? I can't remember now. It was just like a book about a musician. It was nothing heavy or nothing. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't. Like
sometimes I think that sometimes like you can read a book and it's exciting, so it keeps you awake.
Oh no, it was just like, you know, fairly like, you know, low key, not on mad, not a big thinker or anything, but it just wasn't making me tired. It just wasn't happening, and it was like, and like I get that, you know, you get older, don't you, and might need less sleep and things like that. But like I say, I know from how I look and how I feel that I've had a bad kip, because I had a good kip the other day, like a proper 8-9 hours job. Never woke up in the night or nothing, and I felt honestly, I was bouncing all day. I was saying funny things, or I could see people bouncing off me because I was dead good with them.
Everyone's
and all
like,
this.
What's happened to Robbo?
What's he taken? And I've taken nothing. I've had a good kip, and it's like, that's the annoyance of it. It's like, I know like I could be a better me if I was getting more kip, but I just can't get the more kip. And like, well, I think I always end up coming to this conclusion at the moment. I think it might be an age thing, because I see like other people saying similar things who are my age, but then I'm only knocking around mainly with my peers, so it's hard to say. But like Liam Gallagher, who you know I'm a big fan of, always read his interviews, watch his interviews, all of that. He was saying in one of the interviews I read with him that he had a problem, but he mentioned something herbal that he took that worked, but then didn't say what it was, and I was like, fuck's sake, Liam.
Yeah, but what? Something herbal Liam Gallagher's taken. You're not going to be able to get that at the pharmacy, are you?
Well, I've tried that as well, and you know that just knocks you out. That's like ale, it like knocks you out. But I don't think you wake up in the morning and think about the fantastic sleep.
Honestly, I think that just all like of these things. Stoned. But I think the problem is like tea, ale, weed, whatever you're talking about. I think if you want to give it up to help you sleep, you've got to give it up for a while, because otherwise it's just still in your system. Do you know what I mean? I watched a neuroscientist talking about this last week, but. Do you want to play? Have we ever? I must have told you this at some point. The best thing that a coach ever told me, and it worked. It sorted, because I never used to be able to sleep, because same as you, like insomnia. And this coach told me, like this little coaching moment. He told me, no, I was going to come on to that. I want to come on to that next. Like, what's your orgasm like game on this? But he said, insomnia is just anxiety about sleep. So that thing that we've all had, where you go to sleep and you think you should be asleep, so you start getting in your own head about it, and then you're watching the clock going, well, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 6 hours sleep. And then you watch it tick down.
I don't look at the clock. Yeah.
So his thing was, right, he just went to me one day. He went, let's say it gets to lunchtime and you're not hungry. He went, what do you do? I went to him, what do you mean? And he went, do you force yourself to eat? And I went, no. He went, what do you do? He went, to just wait till I'm hungry and then I eat. And he went, so why do we treat sleep any different? He went, your body will sleep when it's ready to sleep. Because we're told
routine, aren't
exactly
we?
That.
Told
well,
routine.
It goes back to the whole, like, this is going to, I hope this slowly turns into just like a big conspiracy theory podcast. Like, why do we live the lives we live? Like, there's no reason why we have to be in work 9 till 5. It's bullshit. When I changed my life, the first thing I did was change it around sleep, so I could sleep whenever I wanted. And that made a massive difference, because then, Joe, if I went to bed, let's say I go to bed at midnight and go, I should be asleep now, and I can't get to sleep, I just get up and I just go and do other stuff that I would do in my day. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say I've got work to do tomorrow, I just go and do that work. And then when my body goes, time to sleep at 3 a.m, I go to sleep, but then I sleep till 11 the next day. And that just boxes it off, because you just let go of the idea that I need to be in work. But that only works if you haven't got to be in work. Do you know what I mean?
Of course,
because if you try phoning you, I remember doing this with one of my mates years ago, before I'd got into all this like stuff. And it was a cousin in Australia. And she was like, if you get a headache, you shouldn't take a tablet. You should just lie down until the headache passes, because that's what your body wants you to do. And my mate was getting all into it. This is before me and him came home from traveling to work for big law firms. And I went to him, yeah, good luck saying that to a fucking big corporate law firm. Yeah. I've got a headache. I'm just going to go
when
for
you've
a
got
kip.
2 kids running around downstairs and you're like, just having a big lie down. Just look after yourselves, kids. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the thing. Like, there's people there'll be people listening, no doubt, who are like, do night shifts and things like that, and they've got no choice to like, have a mad routine in inverted commas, like, and I just think it is mad, like, because, I've asked in the past as well, I've even been to the doctors about it and said, listen, this is bad now, I've like not had kip for ages, it's affecting my mood, I'm irritable, all of these things, blah, 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 blah. And I've said, like, isn't there some, like, and I know there is, of course there is, isn't there like some mad thing that can like knock me out and just, it makes me go to sleep? And he's like, there is, yeah, but I can't give you it. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, well, you've got asthma. So if you had an asthma attack while you're knocked out on that, you might die. And I was like, oh, fuck's sake, well, there must be something else.
To risk it.
Yeah, fuck, I just need a kip.
That's really good. You're like, sound, I'll take it.
Yeah, whatever.
The worst case scenario is I die in my sleep. That doesn't sound that bad.
Do you know what? I need a kip, lad. Just give us it. You shit house.
I think, this is dark, but I think it gets to a point in loads of people's lives where you think, if I didn't wake up tomorrow, it wouldn't be that big a deal. I remember Ricky Gervais saying that once, like, he wakes up every morning going, fucking hell.
This again. Well, that was nice and cheery, that subject, wasn't it?
Let's finish on the funny point then, because I was going to raise that, because it's a real point, isn't it? And do you know what? I don't know how girls feel about this. I'd like the girls' input. Like, the reality is, I think for most fellas, if you're struggling to sleep and you crack one off, does that help you get to sleep? For me, it does. But what I've realised is, the problem is, if you're waking multiple times in the night, it's like a one-time tool.
Yeah. And I thought you were going to say, and, like, you'd end up, there's just a puff of smoke coming out.
Well, the older you get, do you know what I mean? You can't go on you can't go on indefinitely.
But yeah, I mean that is a method, but, again, like, it's a method that I've deployed, and then, like, it hasn't, sometimes it'll work, but sometimes it won't. Like, there are just times where my body's just like, or my mind, probably more to the point, is like, nah, not happening, lad. So you're just going to have to get up or something. And to be, on what you're saying there, I think it is a thing as well. Like, when I look back at times, like, I don't know, like, like this whole journey of like doing podcasts and writing and, even stuff about footy and what have you, that all started because I started a blog. But I started a blog on a Sunday night at 1 o'clock in the morning when I had work the next day, because I was just sitting there, lying there, turning it over in my mind about, the job I'm doing, I don't like, and how am I going to get, and I've applied for these jobs in footy and I haven't got them, and blah, blah, blah. And then I just thought, fuck it, I'm just going to start a blog. And I just wrote a blog. Yeah. And it's still there, like the first thing ever, when I called it Well Read, and it says something like, I don't know why I'm writing this at this time of the morning, but I am. Every other journalist seems to have some kind of blog, so here's mine, blah, 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 blah. And then, that ended up being a magazine. The magazine ended up being a website. That's how I ended up knowing Andy Heaton. That's where the Anfield Rap came from, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, so if I didn't have trouble sleeping and I hadn't got up in the middle of the night and wrote a fucking blog, probably wouldn't be here talking to you now.
Exactly. And that's one of my big things about it. Like, I often think I get my best ideas in the middle of the night, and instead of like beating yourself up about it, just get up and write them down. Just get up and start doing it.
That is a good thing, actually.
And
like,
get it out your head. Do you mean? If you try and just let it spin in your head, it won't leave.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Get up, write it down, and get back to bed.
Yeah, 100% is a thing. Like, if you're an ideas person or it's creative what you do, 100% have a notebook or, put it in your phone or whatever. I heard Tim Burgess from the Charlatans talking about something where he was saying, like, he always had like a dictaphone with him because he'd get ideas for songs or even like a riff in his head. It just comes to him.
Like Partridge.
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah, monkey tennis or whatever. And he'd just say it but he said this one day, I can't remember what song it was now, one of the famous ones. He got the idea when he'd like gone the offie for some ciggies or something. He said he was just like, shit, I haven't got it with me. And like he's like humming this tune or whatever, like all the way back. And he said that fortunately it didn't go away again. Do you know what I mean? But another lad I know, he was trying to think of a name for his business. I remember him saying like it came to him, the idea, in the shower. and he wrote the name in the steam on the shower screen
nice. Yeah,
as he was getting a shower, because all us, like a eureka type moment. Like, anyway, we've digressed there, haven't we? Okay, the second one that I spotted this week in terms of the media was back to the idea that we talked about in the first show, mate, where, you know, you're just sort of reading the media, watching the news, listening to the radio, whatever it might be, and you just sort of like, just feels like the fucking world's taking the piss out of us here. What? And like, it's an American thing, this, because I thought it'd be like, I kind of took some comfort from the fact that that's obviously not a feeling that only takes place in here in the UK. So this was the Wall Street Journal. So they did on Valentine's Day, the headline to a piece was, to save money, maybe you should skip breakfast. And like, as you can imagine, lots of people are taking the piss out of this, because it's like, well, how far do you go with that? Like, you know, like, to save money, don't wear clothes. Yeah. To save money, you don't need a house. You know, whatever. It's just like so condescending. There's this issue with eggs, basically, in America. The prices have gone up 8.5% in January from a month earlier, and a 70% up over the past year, the highest annual rate since 1973. There's been a bird flu type situation and things like that over there, but also there's a lot of profiteering, price gouging, that kind of stuff. Now, ironically, this is behind the paywall.
I love that.
But also, if you know where to look on the internet, there are ways to get around paywalls, just saying. And this is one of the ones you can get through using said site. 12-foot ladder. So
is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I love that. What a name.
Yeah, it's boss, innit? Yeah. So you can get over the wall.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Gabriel Rubin was the fellow who wrote the piece. Says, breakfast lovers might be better off just having a cup of coffee. Now, I was having a look back. I was looking for like mad advice from like either media or political figures where you're just like, really? And as I was having a look to all this stuff, North Korea popped up. They once advised, when there was a bit of a crisis over there, let's only eat 2 meals a day.
I like that stuff. Let's.
Oh, come on, this will be fun.
Yeah, all of us.
Starve yourself. Yeah. Come on. Me and you together.
Do you know what I love it when they go, let's, like, let us.
Yeah.
You're like, not you though, no. Like, not you, fat leader.
No.
Will you be having two meals a day, you fat get?
No.
Come on.
Let's have 2 meals a day.
It goes back to, who was it? Which was the famous queen? Who, when someone said, like, there's a bread shortage or whatever, and she went, like, let them eat cake.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's like the proper, like, that's the quintessential like demonstration of the disconnect, isn't it, between the haves and the have-nots?
Yeah.
Like, well, I've got loads of fucking cake in the house. Why don't they just eat the cake that they fucking got?
You see it, don't you? You see it unfold all the time, that divide. Like, you know, even the Prime Minister, where like he's paying for his can of Coke and he doesn't know how to fucking use his bank card and all that kind. Do you know what I mean? And you know, people open the fucking gesturing for people to open the fucking car door and stuff like that. You open the fucking car door yourself. And you know, we've mentioned it on here before, and everyone's mentioned it, but it's right to mention £39.9 billion profits for Shell. The highest in
1 year, by the way.
The highest in their history.
Year.
And their history is 115 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you just can't escape this thing of, you know, we're having the piss taken out of us, and every you don't even need to pick up. I know lots of people these days don't read the papers. I get that, and like also lots of like gurus or people giving you advice about, you know, how to feel better. They'll say, won't they, avoid the news.
100%.
But avoid the news.
This is the only news I watch.
But even if you do this, you'll be like, when we talked about prices and stuff on the other show, you were conscious yourself. You said about you bought beans and sausages, and we're like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's it. You don't need the news for that.
Exactly.
You go to the shop and you go, why is everything so fucking expensive?
So you're conscious of the piss taken, and you're conscious of the fact that, you know, like I didn't have much choice in the matter. I've got a smart meter now in my house.
Did someone kick your door down?
Well, it didn't quite get to that, but it wasn't far off. They basically said they wouldn't fucking sort the gas unless I got one. And I was sitting there freezing when it was -4 and all that. So I was just like, fucking do whatever you want. But now I'm looking at it some days and I'm just like, that's fucking unbelievable for what we're paying for gas and things like that. But also, like, some days I got out of bed the other day and the Lecky one was like into like the red zone, and I was like, Nothing's on your shit houses.
What was it?
I don't know.
Someone next door tapping in.
I was going around the whole house, fucking unplugging everything, blah, blah, blah. Like, and nothing was really on anyway. I'd been in bed, and I was like, what the fuck's that? And yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe the streets lighting up on the basis of my fucking lecky or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I've thought this for years. We just have to trust everything, don't we? I don't know. This is the thing for people listening outside Liverpool. I don't know how many cities have people who do this, but like it is a thing to just tap into other people's lecky, isn't it? And not even just other people's, but like street lights and stuff like that. But I've thought for years, well, why don't we all just fucking do that? I see
genuinely seen. I'm not bullshitting for the sake of doing it on a podcast or whatever. I genuinely seen someone put it up on Facebook.
Which?
I was just fiddle you lucky.
Really?
I was like, you're not really covering your tracks here, are you?
No, that's
you know what I mean? Like,
not the greatest crime in the world, is it?
And I did hear about someone who did it as well, where you know they were having a crack, or more so they were having a crack at doing it, and you know, unsurprisingly, like went from one side of the room to the other because, you know, they tampered with the wrong wire.
They're not qualified electricians.
So yeah, don't do that, kids. We don't condone that here at the Late Challenge podcast.
I need to share, this reminded me of a story I had, which like sort of sums up the piss taking of this. I remember years ago, I used to live in London, and there was like a heat wave on, and you were like, anyone who's ever been on London Underground, or I suppose any underground, there's no air conditioning, so it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this. There was like, Transport for London's official advice on like, at the top of the escalators before you went down, there was a list of things, like 10 things. It said,
don't faint.
10 things to do. Well, that number one was even better than that. 10 things to do. Like if the tube is so hot, it's like causing you trouble. Bear in mind, people are using the tube to get to work and feed their families and all that. And number one was, don't use the tube. And you're like,
sounds.
I mean, I get it. You're right in some ways, but fucking hell.
Yeah, if you're like the other end of the city, which is quite far.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? Just run?
Walk. Yeah. Brilliant.
But this is I will never stop banging on about this because this is like our upbringing as well, isn't it, in a city like this? But I just can't help but I just look at the people who run the place and make the rules and run the businesses that make the money. And every time anything like this comes up, I'm like, are you skipping breakfast?
I know.
Like, I know Bill Gates has turned into like, it always makes me laugh about Bill Gates when he's like, he's the head of the conspiracy theory, like demon list. And I always look at him and think, I mean, it's a sad indictment of real life, isn't it? Like, if he's our Bond villain, he's a shit one.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? What does he do? Oh, he just runs a fucking computer company. Like, that's not a good Bond villain. But anyway, when you look at him and you think, shit, like, he's not fucking skipping breakfast, is he?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
He's not missing out on anything. He's doing whatever he wants. He's flying around in private jets. And
well, on that, so like I started thinking, I was going down a bit of a wormhole, both in my own head and then eventually, you know, it translated into a wormhole and on the internet, because I was like, oh, what other really bits of bad advice have there been in fairly recent times? And the one that came to mind was when we had Edwina Curry on with Martin Lewis.
Oh,
and his face and his shrugs and his sighs were like I wanted to go and find them and buy him a pint and shake his hand because it was just brilliant TV. She's there, a millionaire or a millionairess, however you should describe that officially. So she's there, a millionaire from Liverpool, by the way, going on about putting fucking foil behind your radiator and pulling your like settee out a little bit to make sure you're getting heat round your house. She used to live in like a converted windmill, which is worth about £1 million. She moved from that to an even bigger house. I think she was paid over 100 grand, I think, to go on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. She's worth about between 5 and 8 million quid. And you're telling us, the plebs, to put fucking foil behind our radiator. And then went on to say as well, by the way, in that interview, and you know, a lot of people in my generation grew up, they didn't have central heating. So, you know, where's this thing come from that we're all used to that? Well, yeah, Edwina, I grew up in a house without central heating when I was a kid. Grew up in a terrace house in Eighton, and it was fucking horrible. I hated it. I hated when I had to get up for school and I'd dip me toe out of the end of the fucking blanket and it'd be freezing. Yeah. And I'd go, oh my God, what's that bathroom going to be like? And the bathroom would be freezing. When you put your ass down on the fucking bog seat, it was freezing. It was horrible. And the idea that it's like, oh yeah, just go back to that.
But I think that's what's happening. Like, I've been talking about this for weeks. Like, humans always think that the way things are now, the way things have always been. But we remember a time when there wasn't central heating and there wasn't double glazing. Do you know what I mean? Like that was a thing. And your house was as cold inside as it was outside. I remember waking up and like you could see your breath in bed. Do you know what I mean? Because basically your house was just a brick shell to stop you getting wet. It didn't stop you getting cold. But now they that's what it feels like we're moving back towards. It's like, yeah, well, we didn't used to have central heating, so it'd be sound. And you're like, yeah, but you're going to keep central heating, aren't you? That's my point with it. If we're all fucking off central heating to save the planet, sound, all fuck off central heating. It's like when my favourite one the other month was, and I saw some fella post a funny thing about it, when Boris Johnson said the way to like sort out your energy. You see this one? Like if you've got an old kettle, it's wasting £10 of electricity a year. So what you need to do is buy a new kettle for 20 quid. And then over 10 years, you're going to make that money back. And so I saw some fella post saying, I'll fucking one step ahead of Boris there. If buying one kettle saves you a tenner a year, he went, I've bought 1,000. So I'm saving £10,000 a year.
I mean, we could just do a show on the shite he's come out with, couldn't we? I mean, I've got some others here. So, you know, we're talking like inflation being at 40-year high, country facing the biggest fall in living standards since the 50s, which is sort of what we're referencing. And we've had other ones. You had like the DEFRA secretary saying like people in poverty, maybe you should buy value products at the supermarket. You know, like, oh yeah,
good idea. Yeah.
I never thought of that, mate.
Yeah, buy cheaper stuff.
Yeah, there's me getting the fucking luxury jam, and I could have got the Savers version. I never thought of that.
Do you know what I'd love though? Like, I loved like digging into this. So think what's going through that fella's head. Does he think people are going to supermarkets and they've got a tenner to spend and they're just getting to the end with their wife and their 5 kids and they've just bought an avocado and a pineapple? Do you know what I mean?
Tesco like, finest or something.
And they're like, well, do you think we should have done something different, love? I'm not sure the kids will survive off this one avocado. Yeah. She's like, well, what else are we meant to do? And he's like, I'll fucking give you an idea.
But you're constantly reminded, aren't you? And this reminds you, and things around you remind you of, like, you know, people talk about divides, and there fucking is one. Like, I followed this account over the weekend that, you know, just got recommended to me. I think it was when I was on TikTok, actually. And it was just like loads of interviews with footy players, like nice clips and stuff like that. And a McManaman one popped up. And, you know, I liked him. And I know what happened in the end and all that. And I know we're not meant to like him because of that. But I still find him interesting as, you know, where he grew up and all that kind of stuff. And on the interview, he's talking about that. So for those that don't know, he grew up sort of between Walton, Kirkdale and Bootle, that sort of triangle of North Liverpool, if you like. And he's talking about that upbringing. And he's talking about, like, and the interviewer, who's posh, is saying, so, like, as I understand it, like, you were playing in the first team and you were still knocking around in that area. And he was like, yeah, that's where I'm from, and no one better than I, type of thing. And he's like, well, what about when you're just like, you know, in the Waitrose? The
fella said that to him. In the
Waitrose in Kirkdale, Bootle or Walton. I mean, fucking hell, hello. And like, it's just this idea that everywhere's like where you've grown up. Yeah. No, it isn't, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, DEFRA secretary said buy value products. We had the safeguarding minister suggested people should just work more hours or get a better paid job.
That's always my favourite one.
Yeah,
just get more money.
I'd never thought of that. Again, do you know what I mean? Oh, hang on, I'm earning this amount. I'm a bit skint, the gas has gone up and all that. I'll just go and get another job. Because it's that easy, innit? You just step out the door and go, oh yeah, I want another job, better money. Oh yeah, you are, mate.
Yeah. Why didn't you just fucking ask?
Like, again, like, what fucking planet are you on? And then you had, like, you know, ministers saying things like it would be silly to help people with the cost of living crisis. Why? Why is it fucking silly? Why is it silly? And Boris Johnson, who you mentioned, there was the one you mentioned with the kettle. There was another one as well, which I found, where they said to him on Good Morning Britain about this story of Elsie. So she was like a 77-year-old widow pensioner who, to cut down on her spending, was eating one meal a day, and she was using her bus pass to stay on public transport all day to keep warm, and cut down on using energy at her own home. So Susanna Reid says to him in this interview, like, you know, what else do you want Elsie to, like, cut back on? Like, there's nowhere else for her to go here, do you know what I mean? And he said, I don't want her to cut back on anything. Went into this like long response, but then actually throws in the sentence, just to remind you, the bus pass was actually something I introduced.
Was that Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, right, well, we should all say you're fucking Santa.
You're
Like,
fucking
we should
boss,
all
you,
dive
mate.
on buses and keep warm then, yeah. Just go around the city fucking 5 times a day and ask the fella to bang the heat.
But something like that even sums it up, doesn't it? Like, even in the middle of all that, right, think about what's going on inside his head. His head's going, yeah, LC, but he's going, yeah, but I'm still fucking boss.
I'm sound.
Can we get back to the ways? Think about that story. There's a thing in there that makes me boss. Let's talk about that. And you're like, come on.
I think
mate.
maybe we should do a show on him one time. Let us know if you think we should. Like,
I reckon you'd get him on.
I think you probably could. I mean, I'd just like to say, like, what was the score with Arden in the fridge? Like, who told you that was good PR?
Mate, I've said this for a long time, right?
And why'd you comb your hair with a toffee apple?
With a toffee apple. I'll maybe get dog's abuse for this, but there are certain people like him, Donald Trump and all that, I reckon they'd be absolutely sound to meet. Do you know what I mean? To have a chat with. I reckon he's dead funny. I reckon he's dead affable. I've read stories of people saying like,
should be running a country.
No, but that's always my point. Like, they definitely shouldn't be anywhere near fucking running a country. Like, I wouldn't have them like running my corner shop.
No.
Let alone a country where they're responsible for like billions or millions of
and
people.
And people asking for free wallpaper.
But think about that. Like, that's a problem when you've got a fella thinking, yeah, but while I've got this job, I can get loads of fucking free jobs done. That's not the type of fella you want. I've had this theory, though. I mean, this is a bit off topic now, but I had this theory a while ago that nobody, and the same rule should apply to referees and to politicians. Nobody should be allowed to be one if they want to be one. What do you think of that?
Yeah,
like, if you want to be one, you're automatically disqualified from the job.
Yeah, because you want the celebrity of it.
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, it should be like jury duty, where like everyone nominates who the best people are to run the country. Do you know what I mean? Nominate the best person you know that you think would be good to be part of running the country, and they have to do 5 years. Because those people, and you say to those people, the way you get relieved at the end of this 5 years is to hit these targets. Like, make it the best you can possibly be, and then you've done your bit, and we'll find the next best 100 people to run the country. Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as you've got someone going, like coming out of school going, I want to be a prime minister.
Yeah.
You're like, well, at the very least, I've seen old school politicians talk about this, which I liked. At the very least, you should have to go and do work. Like, I remember it was Ken Clark or someone like that saying, like, he used to sit on the front bench in the House of Commons, and he said, I'd be looking around thinking, like, former accountant, former lawyer, former banker. He said, all this, like, experience around me of, like, knowledge of the world and how it works, and then they've come into politics. So they know how things operate. There's loads of them now who are just gobshites. Who've just always been
winging
politicians.
It. Yeah, absolutely winging it. Well, we've got about about 17 minutes maybe left. A few more things to get to. We want to do some sport. So the sport and challenge, no clock. I'm going to keep it simple. Over the weekend, of course, Arsenal won their game late. City dropped points again. I got a message off my mate Phil, which inspired this, which he said, in a mad way, you'd nearly prefer City to win this year's title because, for one, it means fuck all as it's tainted. And then he said Arsenal shouldn't be near it and they need to feel the hurt. And it also might make a few more people kick up over the cheating. So I asked Twitter, via the Late Challenge, at Late Challenge, if you want to follow us on Twitter. I asked Twitter, just not long after City had dropped the points, what you all think, basically. Andrew Beasley, bass tuned to red. I know you listen. Thanks, mate. He came back with Arsenal because although it will sting, he was referring to Liverpool fans here, said Liverpool should have got more than one in the last few years. Anytime a non-sport washing outfit wins the league, it's broadly a good thing. Rodney and Tina fan club, he said City on the basis of the fact that every trophy they win means nothing and is being gained by cheating. I'd be bitter if Arsenal won it in front of their own fans. Chris Whitehead said, any chance of an option C? None of them. No. James McCartney, he went for Arsenal. He said City have cheated their way to the top and made a mockery of the whole shebang. Dave said Arsenal, as much as it pains me knowing many an Arsenal fan. Why? Because they're a well-run and fairly funded football team. There was more saying City a tainted club. City because no one's asked when they win stuff, said Justin Linger. A fact that seems to burn Pep's head out. He says every trophy they win should have an asterisk next to their name. Hey Woman said Arsenal because Pep seems to be losing it and his head might finally wobble off. Clem Fandango, fantastic name, says probably City because I just don't care about them. Where are you on this then? You know, where Arsenal or City?
It's weird. I think I might have switched last week because it's funny this. I talk about this a lot in the work I do. Like you can convince yourself of something in your head, but actually just think about how you feel about stuff. So like when I'm watching a game, so this is funny when it comes to Everton as well, right? So in my head, I want Everton to avoid relegation because my nephew and my brother-in-law are blue noses, and you know, for them, I'd like them to stay up. But actually, what I find myself feeling is when I see them getting beat or someone around them's winning, I feel, they're going to go down, and I'm happy. So actually, it's only my intellect like telling me that I want them to stay up. Like actually, I'd get more pleasure from them going down. And it's funny, I was laughing the other week because my in-laws are Arsenal fans now. So I was like, that's good time. And then like now they can be my second team and I can get a league vicariously through them. So I found myself wanting them to win the league because of a few things other people have said. You know, they're a proper club that they are very much like us. So you've got to think FSG modelled themselves on the way Arsenal run, didn't they? And I do like them as a club. It's a bit like, I always cause trouble with this, but like I don't hate Man United the way everybody else hates Man United. I dislike Man United like what they are really to us, which is like a big brother or a little brother. Like where our rivalry with Man United is because we're so similar. And we like, that's why we like, we've got to
want to get one over.
We want to beat them. And at the same time, they're a proper footy club. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got the history we've got and all the rest of it. Arsenal the same for me. Like when we talk about top sixes and all that, like there's probably three, I think, all-time greats, aren't there? This will cause shit, but Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, for me, are the three, if you think back through history. I saw some fella do a post about all-time. Did you see that? I should have sent that to you. All-time points record holders of the league, the league since its inception. And I think it was us, then Arsenal, then Man United, maybe. I'll double check. But it was nice that we were top, do you know what I mean? But I might have switched a bit only because it just dawned on me that if Arsenal win the league, that boosts them massively. Like when you become a league winner, it properly elevates you, doesn't it? Like it did with us. And part of me thinks actually we'd better off with them not winning it and hopefully like it knocking them. Because I am with all the people who said City winning everything is tainted and who gives a shit. Like it's different if Man United won it because they get an extra one on us and all that. But how many titles are City on? 6. I couldn't even tell you, and I don't give a shit. And
it's not romantic, is it, when they win?
Like no one cares.
Someone said there, like that, you know, that is the thing, and it's a big thing for them and their fans, where they're like, you know, the media aren't treating this like I would expect them to, and all this. And when Liverpool win something, you know, you never hear the last of it. Well, you know, well, two reasons that, isn't it? One, it's like Liverpool haven't won it the way yous have been winning things, and so it feels a bit more romantic. But I just think as well, like City, you can say what you like about them, and there are actually some arguments that, you know, I could do a bit of devil's advocate, but I just think they're eminently dislikable now. Everything about them, the way Guardiola holds himself, talks, you know, the way like everything's almost like, how dare you? Do you know what I mean? How dare you say that we might have broken rules?
How dare you question us? Yeah.
And it's like, fuck you.
Well, that I can't wait.
You were in the second division, fucking playing Gillingham, like, you know, like, and do you know what? That gets referenced by people our age and by me, Paul Dickhoff, etc. That was a fucking great moment, That was a fantastic moment. And I remember then I had a lot more respect for Man City because I was like, you know, they're a proper club, proper fans, got like really good attendance figures at Main Road, etc., even when they did go down the leagues. And like I thought, you know, if you make your way all the way back up, which they did, minus the injection of like slightly questionable money or very questionable money, you know, that's more of a thing. Where I'm saying I can be devil's advocate is all this FFP stuff, and again, how many times do we say could be a show in itself, but like, is if you're the club that isn't Liverpool or Manchester United or Arsenal, like the ones that you've mentioned, how do you catch up? How do you close the gap? How do you suddenly generate this revenue? Well, it's not just blag it, is it? Which is what's going on. But what is it? And what are those rules? And I think like, there's a conversation to be had about, are the FFP rules right?
Yeah.
And how does a club emerge off the rails? But then equally, how do you get football to be run in some kind of Corinthian right way or whatever? But like, and if that had sort of been City's like stance a bit more and the vibe they gave off, I think I might have a bit more sympathy for them. But it's not. It's like, fuck you, we'll do what we want. And like, shitty comments like, oh, should I apologise for Gerrard's slip or whatever? Like, fuck off, you bellend.
Yeah. And look, that's all valid, isn't it? And I'm with you. I heard Neville talking about Gary Neville. We should give Gary a shout out, shouldn't we? Seeing as we're chasing him down in the podcast charts. But he always, I think he's always good because he's a businessman as well. So he comes up with, like, instead of just shouting his mouth off on TV, it's dead easy. I've always said this. It's dead easy to criticise the way things are without coming up with a valid way it could be different. Do you know what I mean? Even the way the world's run, I've heard people say, which I really respect, like, loads of people want to burn down the way the world's run, and he's like, try and come up with a better system then. They're like, for the most part, things work. Do you know what I mean? Especially in places like Britain and the US. And it's shit at times, a lot of the times, but come on, you come up with a better one then. But he said about FFP that, it was brought in by the established clubs to stop anyone ever competing. And I remember thinking that at the time, like, how do you ever, the only way you would ever catch up naturally through FFP is over a long period of time, you built your club up so that you could gradually increase your commercial revenue to one day match Man United.
But how do you do that if you're not successful?
Well, you've got to do it incrementally, haven't you? Which that's like 100-year plan, which is ridiculous, isn't it? And his idea, which I liked, was everybody should be allowed to top up their money. The owner should be able to top up the money with no rules up to the highest spend in the league. So if Man United's the highest commercial revenue in your league, your owner can put in up to that point, because that allows you to compete with them fairly, but not, which is where we're going to end up here. Like, Joe, you'll have 3 or 4 state-owned clubs that have just got unlimited resources. Yeah. You're just going to end up with, like, footballers like going for £500 million, aren't you? Because it means nothing to them.
Well, what, isn't Ronaldo now on £500,000 a week? In
£500,000 a week?
Yeah, something mad like that.
More than that.
A week.
Yeah, that's only £2 million only. Listen to me. But this is one of the problems. Like, you become desensitized to it. I've often said to people over the years, just stop sometimes and go, £40,000 a week. Like, if I told you a player was getting paid £40,000 a week, you'd be like, he's not on much, is he?
I'm watching that Wrexham documentary, and like, there's lads on that going like, I'm a professional footballer, but I'm on 40 grand a year. And he's like, people look at me like as though like I'm meant to be some kind of superstar with a mad car and a big house and all this. And he's like, I'm just an ordinary fella. He said, don't get me wrong, I'm made up and playing footy. Yeah. He said, but I'm on 40 grand a year, which is all right.
And that job's going to end when he's in his mid-30s.
Exactly. We've got to do some other stuff. We're running out of time. We've got to do the crunching challenge.
Oh, shit, yeah.
So let's just quickly do that. What have you got? You go first.
So after me defeat last week, I was disappointed by that, as you can tell. I think Quavers are strong, so a lot stronger. And I know I think you've played to the crowd with Monster Munch. So I've switched gear.
Go on.
I'm going like traditional crisp.
Yeah.
But I'm also going like left field traditional crisp. I'm going these
Conservative Party.
Is that
are these Conservative Party crisps?
Are they? Is that what you're saying? Imagine that. That's what I'm getting cancelled for on telly, on the internet. Cope's picked, fucking out of all the things he's ever said, he's picked Tory crisps. Kettle, cheese and onion.
Oh.
Have you had these?
I have.
These tick all the boxes, right? And I didn't do a pitch last week. I reckon the pitch won the knick-knacks. These tick all the boxes because they've got their boss hand-cooked in Norfolk, hand-cooked crisps. So they're boss on a butty, but they're like full of flavour. And they've got that thing as well where when you've finished, there's loads of flavour in the bag, so you can do your finger-licking nonsense on the buses.
Well, I'm not going to show you my crisp just yet because I just want to read. So you've done your little pitch there. The crisp I've got, it says they should be admired and devoured with equal pleasure. Seriously, look at the crisp between your fingers and then tell yourself just how good it's going to taste. Then prove it. You're about to discover a simply superior, no nonsense cheese and onion favourite crisp. Truly, the crisp lovers crisp. So I also have gone traditional, normal, proper crisp. None of this corn snack thing, which has got off people's noses. Yeah. But I think I might lose because I'm wondering how many people have actually had these particular ones.
Come on.
So King cheese and onion, which are from Ireland. One of the packets that Carl brought in last week. Honestly, these are unbelievable.
I don't care.
You get all the Irish will vote for these.
How nice they are. If you get the Irish vote winning you this, I'll be devastated. There is no comparison between them two crisps.
Honestly, they are absolutely tremendous.
I'm not doubting it, right? Because I'm a big fan of normal cheese and onion crisps, but they're like the king compared to these.
They're heavy on the cheese.
Yeah.
That's like feet.
Yeah. Hey, stop trying to undermine the greatest.
Feet crisps. See there, boss, you know they are. Look at your face.
Look, they're exactly what I expect them to taste like. They're like bog standard normal cheese and onion crisps. They're against the king of kettle chips there.
Well, I think your Tory crisps are a bit feety, but we'll put it to the vote.
The way you've undermined them with the Tory thing. That's like 1-2-footed challenge, isn't it?
Tory feet crisps or king.
Don't listen to him trying to swing your vote. You're not a Tory if you vote for kettle chips.
Okay, matter of minutes remain. Just wanted to give a shout out to Paul Crow. He likes the show. He is also a fellow Hytonian. He is formerly of the band The Aeroplanes, who once upon a time were a big fucking deal. Look it up. Had some celebrity fans, including Liam Gallagher, Kate Moss, etc. They had music used on films, Jeff Bridges and all kinds of madness. Really? Yeah, they were doing really, really well. Paul, anyway, is shortly releasing his first solo single, Don't Fail Me Now. Good luck with that, Paul. As I say, fellow Hytonian, but genuinely good as well. Like the single, I've had a listen of it, I've had a sneak peek, and it is really good. It's a belter. I don't say that lightly. Give it a listen. We're going to put a link into the show descriptions, etc., where you can pre-save it on streaming services. There is also a gig this Friday, old school gig, 24th of February, at Leaf on Bold Street in Liverpool. Support includes a stripped back set from Aviator, which for those of you that don't know is Pete Wilkinson, who was of Shaq, Echo and the Bunnymen, and Cast fame. Tickets are only a tenner. They're running low as well. Like they've sold loads already, basically. And you may well see me there. I'm going to try and get down there myself with the missus. So yeah, that is Friday, 24th of February, 7 till 11:30. Paul Crow with support from Brighttown, Aviator and Ben Whiteley. Tickets on sale. Well, there's only a few left. So get on that, get yourself down there. And that has been another late challenge. We've got a couple of minutes left, so we can say it again. Like and share, 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 like and share. Now, without being a bell about it, honestly, all the reviews that you do on all the platforms, Apple Podcasts, we've got no reviews on our Facebook page, by the way. No one's bothered to even click like 5 stars or write anything.
Really?
That's like
you post on Facebook.
That's the platform that's doing the worst at the moment.
Yeah, I hate Facebook.
I don't mind it. I find the use for it. Like, you know, I think it's good for, like, I've got family that don't live close and things like that. And it's good for like throwing pictures up of the kids and then they see them and stuff like that. And just on a somber note, you know, my old fella passed away a few years back, but his Facebook's still there. And like, it's like just, you know, stuff will pop up, like memories of things he said. And like, I'll go back and look at pictures that he left on his Facebook. And I find that like nice, you know what I mean?
That is
like,
nice.
I know there's a lot of bullshit on there and there's a lot of, you know, inbox me hun and all that bollocks. I don't really engage in all that. I use it for sort of like specific reasons. So yeah. But yeah, give us a review on Facebook, Apple Podcast, watch us on YouTube, listen to us on all the podcasting, tell your mates, blah, 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 blah. Follow us on Twitter as well. Hope you enjoyed the show. Do let us know what you think as well. That has been another late challenge.